President Obama, surveillance is an issue that's really important for me, and I'm really glad that you mentioned it in your State of the Union address. In this speech that you gave a couple weeks ago, you stated that you are making certain reforms to NSA programs to ensure our privacy and our civil liberties. From the NYPD spying on Muslim communities to revelations of the NSA surveillance program, a culture of distrust and suspicion has developed among Americans towards government and law enforcement. So what are you doing to regain the trust of the American people?
Well, Riham, even before the State of the Union, I gave a pretty comprehensive speech about the NSA. I'm pretty sure it can be found on Google, so pull it up, and because I won't be able to go into all the details here that I did in that speech. But here's what it comes down to. First of all, the NSA and our entire intelligence community, by law, is prohibited from engaging in surveillance of U.S. persons or people in the United States, even if they're non-citizens, without a court order. That's always been true. That continues to be true. The second thing that people really got concerned about was the collection of all these telephone calls that are made into one single database that the United States government was holding. It was only being accessed when you had evidence of reasonable suspicion that you had a phone number associated with a terrorist network and you wanted to find out who else was being called. And generally that doesn't affect the overwhelming majority of the American people. But folks, I think, legitimately raised a concern. If all those numbers and all those phone calls are being held in one place, isn't that potentially subject to abuse down the road? And I announced that we would reform that program so that the U.S. government wasn't holding this data while still being able to chase down leads when we have a potential terrorist attack. And in the next 60 days, we are going to get a report back from the NSA and the FBI about how we do that. In the meantime, that database will not be able to be queried without a judicial approval, just like any other warrant. More broadly, though, we also have surveillance outside this country. And what I've done in an unprecedented way is say we've got to protect the privacy rights not just to people here in the United States, but everywhere. And if you're an ordinary person, wherever you live, you should have some assurance that all your information is not somehow being gathered and sifted through. And we've set up rules to do that. But trying to find this right balance is difficult. And the one thing I will say, though, Riham, is as somebody who cares deeply about not only our Constitution and privacy rights, but is very proud of our tradition that all persons are treated equally under the law, including Muslim Americans. I've got to tell you that pretty much uniformly in every single interaction that I've had with law enforcement and the intelligence community, they are very mindful that any kind of discriminatory actions are going to be dealt with severely. We don't have a lot of patience for that. Look, is it true that there are terrorist cells that are operating in Muslim countries? Absolutely. But what I think everybody in my administration at least understands is that our best defense against extremists is a strong Muslim community working with us and not being viewed with suspicion. And that's the attitude I think that pervades this administration and will continue to pervade this administration as long as I'm president.